Hey everybody, Dave here. No video last week, as I'm sure you've noticed. That's because I was in the hospital. So I thought this week would be a good opportunity to catch you up on that situation and also provide an update on my overall health. So stick around. I'll let you know how it's going. Alright, so my hospital adventure. I'll try not to make this too long-winded, so I'll try and keep it short, but I don't want to leave out too many details either. So I guess it started a couple weeks ago. I started a new medicine. It was an immunotherapy and a chemo drug combination, sort of experimental, not really FDA approved, but we kind of knew what we were getting into. For the chemo drug, there was a very specific warning about how it can raise liver enzymes. So, it's just one of those things. I have disease in my liver, so we have to keep an eye on it. So after about 2 weeks, we had my levels checked. Of course, my bilirubin, which is one of my main liver enzymes, is a little elevated at 1.7. You really want to have it under 1. But, no big deal, 1.7. Could be the medicine. Let's keep an eye on it. That was on a Tuesday. So last Saturday, my wife, Christine, had noticed that my eyes were turning yellow, which is not a good sign. You want your eyes to be white, obviously. So we called the on-call doctor, said, what do we do? He said, you got to go to your hospital, get the bilirubin levels checked, and go from there, see what the deal is. And that's what we did. So we went to the hospital thinking, we'll get them checked. Maybe they'll give us something. Who knows? Maybe they'll help us relieve it or whatever. My bilirubin at that point was 7, which is very high. And they were unsure what was causing it. Could be the medicine, could be the disease, could be a number of things. So they decided to do a CAT scan, okay? And what they discovered through the CAT scan was that some of my bile ducts were obstructed or kinked, kind of like a hose. So basically your liver produces this bilirubin, it's basically bile, and then it drains into your intestines through these ducts. And gallbladder, same thing. If the ducts are obstructed, then it builds up in your liver, it builds up in your system, and that's when you start to get the yellow skin, the yellow eyes, high levels of bilirubin in your bloodstream. These are all things you don't want. So all of this was on Saturday night. So they wanted to talk to the GI docs, and what those guys do is they take an endoscope, go into your throat, into your intestines, through your stomach, all the way into your liver, place stents inside of your ducts so that you can drain properly. So that's the plan. I spoke to the GI team on Sunday, still in the hospital at that point, of course, and they kind of reiterated the plan. This is what we intend to do. This is what we want to do, and we're going to try and squeeze you in sometime tomorrow. So you can't go home, because if a space becomes available on Monday, we want to be able to get you in. Hopefully earlier the better. So I said, all right. Now keep in mind, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so there's no visitors in the hospital. So I'm there by myself. Every interaction I have with these doctors is alone. And, I kind of rely a lot on Christine to, help me with these types of things. So we were on the phone a lot, but it's just difficult, when you're by yourself and you're kind of scared and you don't really know what's going on. But we had a plan in place, right? So Monday it was. So Monday rolls around and the head GI guy comes in, and he's the guy that's going to do the procedure. And he says to me, I don't think it's a good idea for me to do this procedure on you. He said, I spoke to the radiologist who reviewed your scan, spoke to another radiologist, I spoke to my team, and we all think that there's too much obstruction around this bile duct for me to get a clean stent in. And in that case, I could do more harm than good. He said it's very unlikely that I'll be able to get the stent in, but it is very likely that I could cause an infection, or that I could create more tears in that area, which could be a problem. And you could also end up with pancreatitis, which is a very uncomfortable situation. As this is sort of setting into me, though, I'm realizing that if he does not do this, there's no solution for this bile buildup in my system. And what that means would be that, you know, if no mediation were to occur, that the bile would build up in my liver, ultimately in my system, and start to shut my organs down within days to weeks. So he was basically saying, there's nothing I can do for you, and I could make your life much more difficult and painful for however much longer you have. And to hear that alone in a hospital room was very, very difficult. Because this was my last shot. I mean, you know, as it sinks in, you think, if he doesn't do this, it's lights out. And I said, well, you know, can't we just try? I mean, isn't it worth a shot? You know, if we do nothing, I'm done. I mean, that's it, right? So he said, well, let me talk to your oncologist, and I will do it if you want me to do it, but I make no promises, and I don't think it's a good idea. And I said, well, I want you to do it, number one. And number two, yeah, I'd like to talk to my oncologist. I'd like you to talk to them. So fast forward another 5 hours. I mean, time moves at a snail's pace in a hospital when you're all by yourself, right? He comes back and he says, I spoke to your oncologist. She wants me to do the procedure. And again, I don't think it's a good idea, but she wants to do it. If you want to do it, then we'll do it. He said, I'll put you on the schedule for tomorrow, and we'll give it a shot. And I said, well, can I go home tonight then? If I'm on the schedule tomorrow, let me go home. Let me see my wife. Let me see my kids. I don't know what's going to happen. I want to see my family. I want to sleep in my bed. I'm sick of being in the hospital. He said, yeah, I have no problem with that. So that's what we did. I went home on Monday night, came back on Tuesday for this procedure. Again, Christine's not allowed in because there's no visitors. So I just walk in by myself, get prepped in this bed all by myself, and wake up by myself. And when I, excuse me, when I woke up, there was a nurse there that said they put in 2 stents successfully. And then a few minutes later, one of the doctors from the team came over and gave me a little more information and said there wasn't as much obstruction as we thought. It was as good as we could have hoped for. And we got the stents in. Just like that. And I know that I got a lot of love and support and prayers from people who are watching this video and others. So I just want to say thank you to all the people who were thinking of me at that time, because it was really scary. But it worked out. And, since then, that was on Tuesday, I haven't had my levels checked again, but there are certain things that you can look for to see if, things are subsiding. And it's mostly kind of gross stuff like your biological excretions and things like that. Different colors of different things. You can keep an eye on that. And as they change, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. And for me, it's moving in the right direction. So it seems that this procedure worked by the grace of God. But, it's just one sort of hurdle along the way. I never expected something like this. I don't know what to expect next. But, nobody ever said that this was going to be easy. And I'm just grateful that it worked out. I'm grateful for the love and the support that I have. And honestly, I'm just happy to be here. So that was my adventure at the hospital. So I also want to address, because a lot of people have asked or text me, how are you feeling? How are things going? All that aside, physically, I don't feel great, to be perfectly honest. My back is in excruciating pain for some reason unknown. I don't know. It could be disease related. It could be, I've had a bad back for a very long time, so it could be that. It's difficult for me to stand for more than a few minutes at a time. It's difficult for me to walk far distances right now. So that's one thing I'm dealing with. The other is that one of the medicines that I was on, unsure which, has given me a pretty horrible rash all over my body. And the rash is sort of okay to deal with, but they gave me a steroid to counteract the rash, which is kind of leaving me bloated and very distended and very uncomfortable in my stomach area. And even though I'm very hungry a lot, I want to eat, I also don't want to eat because it makes me uncomfortable. So I'm trying to be careful about that. And it makes it difficult to sleep. I sleep for a few hours at a time. Then I'm up for a few hours at a time. I sleep, whenever I can. I end up taking naps in the day. So physically, I don't feel great. I felt better. Hopefully, once I get through this steroid and once the rash wears off and, all that stuff, if I can get my stomach to get right, I can concentrate on my back and move on. Mentally, right now, I'm in a pretty good spot. When I first came home from this procedure, and it kind of sunk in how close things got, Christine and I had a few moments, almost a full day of, just an emotional release. And it was difficult, but also cathartic. Our mantra is that when emotions like this come, you realize them, you allow them to happen, you experience them, and then you move on. And that's kind of what we did. And then I sort of realized that I have a lot to be grateful for. It's not just, that things could have gone really bad for me. The fact of the matter is they didn't. And so I'm still here. And so I live to fight another day. And that's really the point, I guess, of all this, is that I'm still here fighting, and I'm going to continue to, no matter what. Even if things hadn't gone my way, it wouldn't have been the end. I'm not going to roll over and die. I'm just going to keep fighting. As long as I'm alive, the fight continues. So I don't know what's next in terms of clinical medicines. This rash is really bad. I don't know if they're going to keep me on this medicine. Apparently there was progression. Otherwise, these ducks wouldn't have been kinked up. So I don't know. I have another meeting on Tuesday. I'll get my blood levels checked. I'll talk to the doctors. We'll come up with a new game plan. The fact of the matter is, we're running out of conventional options. That was my, I guess, fourth line of therapeutics, and there's only so many things that we could try. But I'm not really deterred by that, because I think, I don't know, I feel like there's always a possibility, whether it's clinical medicine or it's, integrative medicine or something. We're going to find something. That's just how I feel. It's my optimistic outlook. It's how I'm approaching this thing. So that's why I say mentally I'm in an okay place. So that's pretty much it. The fight continues. I will try and keep you updated as best I can. I apologize if you've texted me and I haven't really responded to your satisfaction. Sometimes it can be difficult. I spend a lot of time lying in bed, to be perfectly honest, and I'm not always near my phone. So once again, thank you for your support. I really love everyone that's involved in this process and that has rooted for me or prayed for me or cheered for me or anything. I appreciate it and I need it. So thank you. And one really quick thing before I go, I just want to give a shout out to my little buddy Frankie. He's another little guy who's going through a similar situation, and right now he needs our love and our support and our prayers. And if you can afford it, your money, I'll put a description to his GoFundMe or I'll put a link to the GoFundMe in the description. And if you could spare anything, it would mean a lot. His mom is a dear friend of mine from high school, like a sister to me, and I love her to death. And by extension, I love this little boy, and I don't want to see anything bad happen to him. So he really needs our support right now, and I just hope that you can give it to him. So thank you again for your support, and until next time, thanks for watching.